The Rich and Mike Show, Flagler County's hometown sports show. Here are your hosts, Rich Carroll and Mike Licio.
Yes, it's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. Good Saturday morning, Flagler County. And a good Saturday morning to you, Mike Licio.
Hello, Flagler County. Rich, are you an award show guy?
No, it's funny you ask that, but that's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand award shows unless it's the FPC athletic ceremony. I think that's fantastic. We love to be a part of it. But, like the Grammys or the Academy Awards, stuff like that, you couldn't pay me to sit there. Well, maybe you could pay me to sit there and watch it, actually. I will. If you pay me, I will watch it. But if you expect me to just sit down and watch an award show, it's not happening.
Rich Carroll will be a seat filler at the Oscars next year. We just learned that. I would say that most of the time, the only award show that I watch is the one we host, and that's it, the red carpet.
Right.
I was talking about the AMAs being the St. Petersburg Bowl of awards shows, and it was because I had to watch that with the family. But I'm not talking about those award shows. The Flagler-Volusia High School Sports Awards were held this past week at Ocean City at the Ocean Center, and pretty good showing for Flagler County when you realize that Flagler County has two schools in the Flagler-Volusia area, and Volusia has about 15, 16 schools. We had a pretty good showing here in Flagler County. We had one athlete of the year, so they do awards for each individual sport, and then they pick a boys athlete of the year, and they pick a girls athlete of the year. Well, the boys athlete of the year, to nobody's surprise, at least I don't think, maybe some people were surprised. I know you're not going to be surprised when I tell you who it was. And if you were listening to Morning Sports, you already know, but you get to hear it again. Colby Cronk.
Yeah, I was going to answer the question, Mike, but I heard the Morning Sports, so it would have been cheating.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate that. I mean, that was a no-brainer. Colby, 27 sacks during the football season, won a state championship in shot put. It was pretty easy to say that Colby Cronk, he was the athlete of the year, but he was also the defensive football player of the year and the track and field athlete of the year as well. So Colby Cronk putting the final exclamation point on his FPC career.
And what a career it was. One of the legendary athletes in the history of this county, will be remembered forever for the things that he accomplished. And, I'm a football guy, so when you talk football stats, I understand that. And when you look at Colby Cronk, Defensive Player of the Year, and you see 28 sacks on the season, if that doesn't get you Defensive Player of the Year, I don't know what will.
He ended up with around 60. I had to pull up the exact number, around 60 for his career, which if you realize that he had an injury his sophomore year and he missed about most of his sophomore year, he only had about 2.5 to 3 seasons worth of games to put those numbers up. But he did. And then, of course, last year in the shot put, he set the state record for the longest throw ever by a junior in a shot put event. And then backed it up this year, winning on his final throw to defend his shot put championship. He was also second in discus. So Colby Cronk was the complete athlete. And obviously, I think following in Michaela's footsteps, he had a lot to live up to. And I think he actually, as crazy as it sounds, he kind of lived up to what the standard Michaela had set.
Oh, yeah, he definitely did. And like I said, he's an athlete that we'll remember here for a long time for all of his accomplishments. And now we get to see him go up to NC State and bring his talents there. And I'll be looking forward to Saturday afternoons and see what he's up to.
My guess is that ACC quarterbacks will not. Speaking of multi-award winners, Leah Stevens, another one that wasn't a shock because not only is she the best softball player in the area, she might be the best softball player in the state. She was selected for Softball Player of the Year, which after going 18-1 with a .32 ERA, 249 strikeouts, hitting .500, and leading her team to regionals was not a surprise. She also won the Finley Courage Award. You and I know the story, and we've talked about it on the show, what Leah had to overcome, but she had a blood clot and suffered a stroke her sophomore year. There was some question of whether Leah would even return to the circle, let alone return to the circle and be one of the best in the nation. We were very lucky Leah has been very blessed to recover the way she has. We've been very blessed to get to cover her.
Oh, we have, and a great job with the morning sports Friday morning with the audio. It was great audio, just hearing her talk about her career and everything that she's been up to. So if you missed that, you can definitely check that out on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel, WNZF Facebook page, the morning news for Friday, June 6th. Just look for that, and you'll get Mike's sports report at the end there, and it was really a brilliant job with her audio. And yeah, it's an inspiring story. It makes you realize that you can overcome difficult things in life, but not just overcome them, just excel at what you choose to do after these circumstances that bring you down or put obstacles in your way, physical, sometimes they're mental, but she truly is an inspiring story. And, for us as the WNZF Sports Network, on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel, we're looking for things to cover there in the spring. And you start noticing, wow, look at what Matanzas is doing. Look at that record. They're 17-1. They're 18-1. Let's get out there. Let's do some more softball games. Let's document this because something special is going on here. And then when you do, and she was one of those seniors that were succeeding, having that fantastic year. She wasn't the only one. There were other girls doing great things on that team as well. But you go, and now we were a part of what that magical run was for the Matanzas Pirates. And there are a few teams I can think of, over the years. We can go through it. Definitely FPC from last year, the football team, and the run they went on was fun and magical, and the things that we witnessed, that Spruce Creek game. Yeah, we could talk about that forever. But now the Leah Stevens Matanzas Pirates girls softball team, that's a part of the history, of the fabric of great things that we were able to witness here at WNZF, and those games, at least a few of them, not all of them, obviously, but definitely the 2 playoff wins and some games before that. We had the FPC Matanzas game, which was very dramatic as well through the course of that run that the Pirates were on. But Leah Stevens and the Matanzas Pirates in 2025, that is a team, at least for me, and I know a lot of other people, will be remembered forever. And Leah Stevens was she was the Jordan of that team. She was the Steph Curry. She's the superstar you look to, and she led her team. And man, I'm so glad that we had a chance to film it, and it's there on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch it. But congratulations to Leah Stevens on an incredible high school career and what she was able to overcome to accomplish that. She'll be inspiring, I think, young girls and young everybody. She'll be inspiring everybody for years and years to come.
You're seeing it at the college level too. The young lady from Texas Tech who basically has put her team on her back when they needed her most, and that's what Leah Stevens was for Matanzas this year. And like you said, there was other great seniors: Ashley Samsell, Juliet Fogel, who will be at another national championship. I may not have mentioned this here. Leah is going to Florida. I think we mentioned that, but yes, just in case I didn't mention it a few minutes ago.
Maybe not on this show, but we've mentioned it a lot. Yep, she's going to.
We've mentioned it a lot. I meant today though. I know she's definitely. It's definitely worth mentioning again, even if I did.
Yep,
that she's
definitely
going to Florida, national championship caliber program. I think with her and Keegan Rothrock in the circle next year, that Florida team is going to be formidable for sure. And then Juliet Fogel is headed to St. John's River State, who is a national championship caliber junior college program. So a lot to be proud of for that Pirates softball team. You talked about the FPC football team. Well, let's get back to that, because Hayden Hayes was the offensive player of the year. And this seemed like another no-brainer to me, because I've been here 16. This is going to be my 16th season. I think this is going to be your 11th. Yes. Check my math on that, but it sounds about right.
I would never check your math, Mike. You're a much better at math than me, so I would need you to check my math.
We've never seen a quarterback like Hayden Hayes.
No.
It's very simple. We could talk here for the rest of the show. Never. He was the complete package, and he was in his bag all year. The way he was coached by that FPC coaching staff, it was unbelievable. He took to the offense. He understood the offense. He made all the throws. He made all the decisions. He was fearless too. He was fearless. And so Hayden Hayes being Offensive Player of the Year wasn't really a surprise to me.
Yeah, he was incredible to watch. I remember thinking, because the year before, your alma mater, right, the Yellow Jackets, St. Augustine, they went on their run. They went to the state championship, fell to Mainland. But through the course of that journey, me and Sharon were showing up. You remember we were going to the games, and we were watching the playoff games out in St. Augustine. And the quarterback, what was the young man's name there, the quarterback of that
Locke
team?
Hewlett. Locke Hewlett. He's now at the University of South Florida.
And I remember watching him and thinking, man, this is the best quarterback I've seen at this level, just sling it around the way he's slinging it around. And then a year later, we see Hayden Hayes on FPC. I'm looking at it, I'm saying, man, this offense looks like what we were watching in St. Augustine last year. This kid's incredible. The only thing you lament a little bit is we only got to see it for 1 year. But, man, that 1 year, that offense was just, and some of the back and forth games that we saw, the drama involved in it was just, as far as, and we've seen quite a few, starting right there with FPC, Marcus Mitchell. We were talking about Nathan DiTilio before the show. We've seen some good shows. DJ Murray, some good athletes. DJ Murray, offensive athletes, and I think of Moultrie, right? He was a great running back a few years ago. We've seen some great offensive athletes here in Flagler County, but for me, Hayden Hayes is the best offensive football player we've seen come through the county, at least at the quarterback position. If you wanted to break it down position by position, we can do that. But if you were to say overall offensive player, I would have to say Hayden Hayes is the best offensive player I've ever seen at this level locally.
I would give the all-around nod to Marcel Williams, but that's because I'm horribly biased towards Marcel Williams, who could do it all. But you're absolutely right. We were having a discussion early in the year. Is he better than Locke Hewlett? And then I was like, I don't know. And then I started to think about that he was putting up the same kind of numbers. And the one thing that he didn't have that Locke did last year was 3 Division I receivers. Carl Jenkins at St. Augustine's at UCF now. Trenton Jones is at Mercer University. My adopted son, Trenton Jones, is at Mercer University. Samarian Wingo currently has his, I think it's narrowed down to Florida, Miami, and Alabama, and LSU. So that tells you Hayes was putting up those numbers without that kind of talent around him. He also, Locke also had Bam Lyons, who's a starting running back at Florida Atlantic. Now he had that kind of running back behind him. He had Mitchell behind him, who's definitely that dude at running back. But the receivers he had, Roman Caliendo at tight end, Mikhail Isaac out on the outside, Braylon Simmons, who's now moved on, as so many kids do. He had such explosive weapons. He had great weapons, but he didn't have the weapons that Locke had. And so I kind of came around on that as the year went on. And you always felt like as long as he was behind center, you had a chance. And that is the ultimate compliment for a quarterback, is this guy is our quarterback. And as long as he's our quarterback, we're going to win.
Yep, and as I mentioned, that was just one of those runs, one of those seasons that'll be memorable for a long time. And again, that was a team that had the offensive player of the year and the defensive player of the year. They were pretty good.
One more. Now, we talk about another team that I wasn't quite surprised they didn't win team of the year, because what the New Smyrna Beach girls basketball team did, winning a state championship after a 15-win season the year before. A good season, but not a great season, but following it up with a state championship. They won girls team of the year, but I'm sure the voting was pretty close for FPC girls wrestling. And no surprise here at all, Nina Borgman was the wrestler of the year. She didn't lose a match her last 2 years. She won a couple of national tournaments as well. She's going off to Felician University in Rutherford, New Jersey, in the shadows of the homeland, New York City. And this is another athlete that we were privileged to cover, and we've had great conversations on this show with Nina. I've had great conversations. We've had great conversations, you and I, offline with Nina and her family, and so it was great to see her recognized one last time, because she is another person who rewrote the FPC, and even had a pretty good run at Matanzas. Rewrote the Flagler County wrestling record book.
Oh yeah, and Flagler County, for what we've been a weightlifting county, right? Very successful in wrestling as well. And Nina Borgman, one of the great wrestlers of all time, to come out of Flagler County. I remember we had that great interview with her, the first red carpet we did for the FPC Awards dinner, and just everything that because it's not like, if I remember correctly, wrestling wasn't something that she was seeking out, but she was told, hey, you should try this, and it turned out to be a great thing for her. And I love stories like that, where you discover something that's not necessarily on the top of your list of things to do, but then all of a sudden you become all about it and extremely successful at it, and look at all these places that it's taking her to. It's just, she's a great story. She really is.
She got to compete in an international tournament last summer in Bahrain.
That's right, yeah.
I think I'm saying that right. And I can imagine if you asked her in 8th grade, Nina, when you get through your high school career, you said to her, would you believe me if I told you you're going to be one of the best wrestlers in your weight class in the country? You're going to be recognized statewide, countywide, nationally, and internationally. I'm pretty sure she would never have believed it. And now she gets to pursue her dream, what became her dream, and she gets to wrestle in college as well.
Yeah, just an incredible job, an incredible group of athletes. And you mentioned it, two high schools here in Flagler County. How many are in Volusia?
I think 16 public and then a couple of private.
So right away, you just look at it, you're like, man, only 2 schools, yet so many great athletes coming through Flagler County. And it's true that there's a lot of talent here, and a lot of reasons to just be proud to live in Flagler County and to go to school here, and know that those that came before, if you're going to school now, had great success, and you as well, playing in Flagler County, going to the schools here. You know, there are a lot of opportunities here. You don't have to go to other schools to have opportunities, because there are kids right here in Flagler County having great success, and they get to star on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel. What's better than that?
And we've got one more, though. He won't be on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel because cross country happens way too early in the morning for me, especially after a Friday night. I do feel bad that I don't ever get out to any cross country meets, but most of them take place during football season on Saturday morning. But
you'll still highlight it on the morning sports, Mike. We'll still hear about it. Yes.
Of course. But I still, I can't get out there because most of the time, by the time it's time to leave for some of these events, I'm just getting to bed on a Saturday morning, to be honest with you. We burn the candle at both ends on Friday night and Saturday morning. But Blaine Vogel, a junior from Matanzas who had a great year, had the fastest time of any area runner at the state meets this year. He was the boys' cross-country runner of the year. He's somebody who I think is going to contend for a state title this year. So congratulations to Blaine on representing Matanzas. So it wasn't just FPC, it was Matanzas as well. Both schools well represented here, and it makes me excited to have this being probably the final major event of the school sports year. Makes me excited for what's coming next in August.
Yeah, we're looking forward to August. Hey, we're getting into full summer vacation mode for me and you, Mike. What are you going to do with yourself?
I haven't even figured out what I'm going to do this afternoon. I haven't gotten that far. So I do have
no
my
games.
No, I know. My wife keeps asking me, "Where are you this week?" I'm like, I'm home till August. I'll have my summer sabbatical. I take my vacation at the day job after 4th of July, that first week of July, just like I usually take about 10, 12 days of Christmas as well to kind of charge me up. So that summer sabbatical will be like my last before the season. That was a planned breath, by the way.
Okay.
My last,
so dramatic.
My plan. I know. That's how I am. But then, before we know it, it'll be football season. Then I'll have my winter sabbatical, and we'll be in the spring season. So it'll all be here soon. Rich, I know we're getting late in the show, and we need a break here. But I probably do need the break because I'm about to complain about my favorite organization when we get back.
Oh, okay. So Mike, he has a little something to say about the FHSAA. I am waiting. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Also, I don't know if we'll have time, but I did want to do a little bit of a post-mortem on the Knicks. If we don't get to that this week, we'll get to it next week.
I'll be quick.
So all that and more coming up after this.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
All right, Rich and Mike Sports Show, a Saturday morning. Mike, the FHSAA, they got on your nerves a little bit.
I keep trying to make sense of the things they do, and I don't know why I bother to, because it's all it does is make me older, fatter, and balder when I have to think about some of the things they do. But I did want to talk about something. So the spring games these last couple weeks, both teams played a little shorthanded, and there was a reason for that, and that reason being that from the way it was explained to me, is the FHSAA does not allow transfers. If you played football at a school in the fall, you can't play in the spring game. Now, from my understanding, the county does have some discretion in that. So I don't know, where the county offices lay in this, but I want to talk about something that I think is completely stupid. And that is the argument being that the spring game, the reason they can't play in the spring game is because the spring game is in the same school year and therefore a continuation of the fall season, which we all know is not the case, because if it was a continuation of the fall season, then seniors could play in the spring game and they cannot. But where I want to talk about the hypocrisy is we have athletes who played sports in the fall, played football in the fall at one school, then played and competed in an entire season in the spring at another school, but they can't play football. Yeah, I'm not trying to single Darius Simmons out, other than because he's the biggest example of the hypocrisy of this. Darius Simmons was at Halifax for football season, transferred back to FPC before the spring semester started, the second semester started, and was able to compete the entire season in track, but was not able to compete in football. That blows my mind. There was a couple players from both schools who didn't get to compete. That blows my mind. I see students in other sports that transfer right over from one school and go right into the other, and it's not an issue. But for some reason, this is an issue, and it's just, to me, completely stupid and something that really needs to be addressed.
And it just doesn't, like you said, it doesn't make any sense. We were talking before the show. I think you said part of the rationalization is that this is actually a continuation of the previous season.
Yes.
Which makes this is basically a spring training game for the next season. These are new rosters. This is not the same team that just competed during last season. So this idea that this is a continuation of I don't know how that would make any sense to anybody, because you're going to have you have seniors that aren't playing in that game, right? Their careers are at this level are essentially over. So to say that this is not part of the new season, just look at FPC is a completely different team. They had a bunch of seniors. They have a new head coach. And you're telling me this is a continuation of the previous season? It makes zero sense. So I don't know where they get that. Plus the idea, this is high school. You're denying a kid an opportunity to compete and have fun. This is an after-school activity. And to come up with some rule that makes no sense just to deny a kid the opportunity to play a game, potentially with his new friends, people that he's trying to learn, trying to build relationships, trying to be a part of something new, trying to build something in a lot of places, as we're seeing with FPC with a new head coach, or seeing on other squads with a lot of new players, turnaround, seniors going out, sophomores coming in. You're trying. This is where maybe I'm wrong, but when I look at these spring games, this is starting to build the foundation for the future, for what's to come, not what has already happened, not what's behind us. These spring games are about what's in front of us. And then that's the most horrible part of it to me, is that these kids that are starting a new journey, you're singling them out and saying you can't play. You can't be a part of it for no real good reason. There's no real good reason why these kids can't get on the field with their new friends and play. It is an after-school activity. It's supposed to be fun, and you're making it nonsense. You're coming up with rules to single out certain kids and tell them they can't play. And why would you do that? It just makes no sense. It's wrong.
And you can compete in the postseason in other sports that happened before the spring game, but you can't compete in an exhibition. It's an exhibition game. We're not talking about a playoff game. And
Right.
To be clear, I'm not talking about some kid who just transferred in on May 15th that they should be able to play the spring game. We're talking about kids that were enrolled well before the second semester began, that were there for every spring practice, that were there for every class in that semester. We're talking about kids these aren't kids who just showed up and said, hey, I'm going to play in your spring game next week. I understand if you want to set a cutoff date, they have to be enrolled by this date. I understand that. This makes no sense. And what makes even less sense, if you can believe it, is that the board voted to install a shot clock, which we as basketball fans and broadcasters, we're very excited about, except it's only for the postseason, beginning not this coming year, but the year after. Makes sense of that one. So you have one style of basketball during a year, and then you've got to play under a shot clock. We saw how the best example of this we have. Go back and watch the FPC game against, I can't remember the school's name now, from Massachusetts. We did that game earlier in the year.
Yep.
But playing a school that played with a shot clock, it definitely affected FPC because it's a different tempo of game, and you can see the pace that they played at. You have to change what you're doing as a team in the postseason because you're not used to playing with a shot clock. And in the most important games of the year, that's when you're going to implement this. This is a major change.
It fundamentally changes the game. You can't hold I don't know how long this shot clock is going to be, but we've seen
35 seconds.
Yeah, all right. So it's a 35-second shot clock. We've seen teams hold the ball for longer than that, right? This is part of the strategy. This is part of the game that exists the way it is now. And to expect teams to play one way during the regular season, and then, because yes, it's basketball, but it's a completely different version of basketball when you're introducing a shot clock. It completely changes your philosophy to each possession, both offensively and defensively. And to turn around, to me, all of a sudden, it would be like baseball saying, well, we're going to 2 strikes in the postseason. So get used to 3 strikes during the regular season, but we're going to speed it up. We're going to go to 2 strikes and 3 balls for the postseason. We're going to change. We're going to fundamentally change what the game is in the postseason, and not only but make it harder, right? So I don't understand the reasoning of that. If you were going to phase it in the regular season, it doesn't make any sense to phase it in the most important games of the year. You're experimenting now with the most important games. I don't see how that makes any sense.
No, it doesn't. And so we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. I don't know if you have time to put your postmortem on Tibbs. I think I said my piece last week, so I'm going to give you the floor for whatever's left.
Well, we still have time for we'll get to the Knicks next week. I do want to say that game 1 with Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder was incredible to watch. It's amazing how Halliburton continues to do this over and over. Each series, if you look at it, he had a game-winning shot. Final seconds, just a dagger. Against Milwaukee, against Cleveland, against the Knicks, and to have 4 of those shots in one postseason is absolutely phenomenal. And yes, I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm a basketball fan first. I love the NBA, and that game 1 against OKC. But down the stretch, you knew what was. That was the funny thing, right? I feel like everybody in the country knew what was coming as the Pacers started to make their move late in that game. Everybody knew except the Thunder and their fans. And when that shot drops for Halliburton at the end there, it was just so quiet in that arena. So, and I could get more into it. I don't have any time here, but I don't think the reason I picked the Pacers in this series, I don't think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a closer. You saw it late in that game where he gave up the shot in one of the possessions in that final minute. Where Halliburton, he went out there and got it. So I take the Pacers in 6. I know, Mike, you said you went with
OKC in 6, yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Not looking good, but I'll take it. I'll stand by it.
What a game 1. Have a great weekend, Flagler County.